hey, I was playing a game of Survivor and I looped the killer for 7 consecutive hours, and I unhooked, 18 other survivors, and I healed for 93 health states. I fixed 10 generators. It was such an amazing game. I truly am a god amongst mankind when I play Dead by Daylight. But then, right at the end, I got thrown on a hook and I died, and I don't like that that counts as a loss. And the idea here is, wouldn't it be nice if you could do all that, and sometimes you'd get out alive?
Right? Like, wouldn't that be nice? That's the idea. That's all MMR is trying to do, is it goes, I know that you died, it's ignoring how you got there, because there's too much nuance to be able to make a real effective system. So we just ignore that.
One of the most notorious debates in DBD is whether or not the old emblem-based or ranked-based matchmaking system was better than the current skill-based matchmaking system. This conversation gets brought up constantly, and it's usually associated with a lot of blanket statements and confusion in general. So in this video, I really want to explain why the old ranked-based matchmaking system was not only far superior to SBMM, but going even further than that, why it was one of the greatest matchmaking systems in modern gaming and should have been used as an example for how other games in the industry approached matchmaking, and why it's just such a tragedy that Behavior didn't recognize that at the time and instead abandoned it in favor of the more widely used skill-based matchmaking system. Now, there's a lot of elements of this debate we need to cover, so in order to do that in a way that is not super confusing and convoluted, I'm going to talk about these matchmaking approaches as individually as possible and then compare them at the end. Let's start with what was so great about the old ranked-based matchmaking system and why it should have been a pioneer for matchmaking design in the gaming industry. Now, the system was changed a bit here and there, but essentially it worked like this. There were 20 ranks in the game. 20 was the lowest rank for absolute beginners, and rank 1 was the top rank in the game. In order to rank up, you had to play well, not win. You could technically reach rank 1 without ever getting a 4K or escaping a match. This was done through the pip system, gauging all of the different gameplay factors in the game, how well you did in chase, how many hooks you got, how many unhooks you got, gen defense, gen progression, etc. On the 13th of every month, ranks would reset and send players back 10 ranks, which was later changed to 5 ranks. So if you were level 1, you'd go back to level 5, and if you were level 5, you'd go back to level 10, so on and so forth. This meant that if you were a really sweaty player and used the best perks or whatever, you would gain pips really fast after rank reset and be back to rank 1 pretty quickly, where you would get matched against other players who did the same thing. As the month went on, more and more players would slowly reach rank 1. So let's explore the different outcomes of this. If you were a new player or just a true casual player, you would stay between rank 20 and rank 10. If you were more of an average player, you would stay within the rank 5 to 10 region. If you were an above average player, you would hit rank 1 at some point in the month, but it would take you a while to get there. If you were a tryhard, you'd hit rank 1 relatively fast, but later as the month went on and the player pool got more diluted, your matches would become easier. So no matter where you were, your matches would be more varied. Those really insanely sweaty matches would be few and far between because the game wasn't directly incentivizing them, or as they used to call them, DPIP squads. If you are an OG player, you can really recognize this because DBD was way less balanced during this time than it is right now, but looking back at it, it doesn't feel that way because the matchmaking system was promoting playing well over playing to win, while simultaneously separating players into visible and easy to understand ranked brackets. Everyone knew where they stood and what they were most likely getting themselves into when queuing up for a match. Now, I don't want to look back at the old rank-based matchmaking system with rose-tinted glasses. There were, of course, issues with it. However, they were all incredibly easy to fix and surely would have been if the system hadn't been prematurely abandoned for SBMM. So what could have made the old rank system perfect? Firstly, the decision to change rank reset to -5 ranks instead of 10 ranks was a mistake. Over time, this pushed more and more players to the top bracket, red rank 1, which watered down the value of the ranks, leading to a similar situation to what SBMM is doing in the game right now, but we'll get to that later on. The point is that rank reset should have stayed at -10 ranks so that it upheld its value and didn't water down the player pool. Another issue that gets brought up with the old ranked system is that players would often exploit it by queuing up with one low ranked player so that they could play against low level killers and bully them. Now this is true, it happened quite a bit, but there's some important things to consider here. One, this is still possible even with SBMM. I'd show you a clip, but I'm confident that the content creator who proved this would copyright claim this video if I did that, so instead I'll leave a link to the clip in the description. More importantly though, this should not be possible in either system. Whether the old Emblem ranked system or SBMM, matchmaking should always be based on who the highest ranked or highest MMR player is in the lobby. Trying to find an average or going off of the party leader's rank is always going to be exploited, so address that directly. It's not a fault of either system, and it's frustrating when people use this as an example to tear down the old Emblem system, because not only do they not realize it's still happening in SBMM, but because MMR is hidden, they don't actually see it. It's just very disingenuous or ignorant to use this to argue against the old ranked system. It's an exploit that should never have existed in the first place, and it has nothing to do with either matchmaking system's viability. Another similar argument was that players and even popular streamers at the time would purposely derank off stream so they could dominate on stream or in pre-recorded videos to make themselves look like an amazing player, when in reality they were just deranking to pub stomp. This is seen in a lot of other games through smurfing, where someone who's highly skilled will make a new account to outplay everyone at an unfair skill level. However, in DBD, making a smurf account doesn't really work, because DBD is all about the grind, so that's why players would derank instead. So the first thing here is that this was always more of a conspiracy theory than an actual proven fact. If big content creators were constantly doing this, it would have been very obvious to see. Did it happen? Of course. I'm not trying to imply that it never happened, only that people made disproportionate claims of how often it was actually happening. Deranking for hours after a stream is nearly insane, and like I said, it would have been very obvious to see unless they went through the extreme effort to hide their rank. However, all of that said, this still would have been easy to fix. Like they do with grades now, they simply needed to add a safety net for depipping. So once a player hits purple rank 5, for example, they would no longer be able to depip back to purple rank 6. So until rank reset came around, they would be soft locked at that rank for the month. And maybe rank 5, rank 10, and rank 15. They could all have these soft locks present to keep players at different skill levels contained. Another easily solvable problem with the old rank system is that some of the score events that give you pips were not designed well for certain killers, especially those that relied on instant downs, causing them to depip often even when winning a match. Again, this isn't really a fault of the system itself and more of a behavior problem. They simply needed to update the score events for different powers. It could have been solved very simply. Now for the last big issue about the old rank system, I want to talk about an issue I had with it personally. It's something I don't see people bring up very often, but it's when I would decide to take a few months break from DBD, maybe a new game would come out, or I just get bored of playing, and then I would return and the game would drop me from red rank 1 all the way back down to rank 20, which is just insane because I was forced to pub stomp my way all the way back to about rank 8, which is where I would start needing to use my brain again. And this happened multiple times. So a solution to this problem would have been to hard limit rank resets based on your highest achieved rank. For example, for players like myself who hit rank 1, there's no reason we should ever drop down back below rank 10. That should just never be possible. Rank reset is still important, but not to the degree where you get set back to kindergarten. It just was really silly and short-sighted. So now it's time to move on to skill-based matchmaking. Every player now has a hidden matchmaking rating somewhere between 0 to 2,800. The starting point is 650, and the top bracket of players currently starts somewhere between 1400 to 1500 MMR, but behavior does tweak this from time to time. It's all a bit confusing and it takes a lot of time to explain in detail, so check out my slightly outdated video here if you're interested in a thorough explanation of how MMR works. Now, it's really hard to say anything positive about SBMM because even the parts of it that aren't that bad are still better under the old rank-based matchmaking system. SBMM at its core is theoretically designed to protect really bad players from highly skilled players and push everyone else to the middle. However, that's not the reality. This is due in large part to the fact that prior to SBMM being added to DBD, the game had no definitive win condition. Players made up their own win conditions. For some, it was to pip. For others, it was if 3 or more teammates escaped, or if they got a 3-kill game or a 4-kill game. It was all really up to the player. Yet with the SBMM, a clear win condition had to be created, and the win condition behavior implemented is basically if you escape a trial through the exit gate, you win. Nothing else matters. For killer, you have to get 3 to 4 kills to win, otherwise you draw or lose. Pipping does not mean anything anymore other than a blood point bonus at the end of every month. Now you might say, what changed? Why would any player care if they win or lose? Why would anybody in their right mind want to purposely have the highest MMR or care about losing MMR if they can't even see it? So what's happening with those questions is you're looking at SBMM in the wrong way. Nobody really cares what their MMR rating is. If they could see it, they would care, but you can't see it. So again, nobody actually cares. Regardless of that, players like to win. And now behavior has set a definitive win condition in the game. So what happens is that the majority of players get to the top bracket after about 50 wins, which happens way faster now because behavior lowered the soft cap. Once you are here, you are basically red rank 1 from the old ranking system with a few key differences. One is that you can't really escape the top bracket once you're in it anymore. There's no depipping, and a bit like the soft cap, preventing players from getting enormously high MMR scores that would prevent them from ever finding a match. The top bracket of MMR has a safety net, so to speak, that prevents you from losing too much MMR even when you are on a losing streak. This prevents players from deranking their MMR, which you might think sounds like a good thing, but with the lack of any rank reset, players are now put into a gaming experience that's permanently sweaty with absolutely no breaks. Again, it's just a tragedy because there's so much variety in DBD and you just rarely see it once you're in this bubble. Some people refer to it as high MMR, but in reality, it's more like, I know how to play the game and I like to win MMR. That's not to say that the matchmaking system doesn't make any effort to match players together beyond the entry point for the top bracket. It does, it just doesn't mean that much. Once you're here, you're going to see the same perks, play styles, and killers over and over again. As time goes on, this is only going to get more severe. The psychology is, I'm about to play a really competitive match, and if I want a chance to win, I need to bring in the best build I possibly can and play every match like a quasi tournament. I pointed out in one of my last videos about how the reviews for DBD are tanking, and there's no grand movement behind this. All of the top DBD content creators make pretty positive content about the game. It's just the average everyday players are losing patience with how sweaty the game feels and that they're voicing their opinions. Now for the last segment of this video, I want to show you a story about SBMM versus a well thought out and play tested matchmaking system. Now this is a Games Radar article that was written in defense of SBMM. I'll link the full article in the description, but here I just want to highlight their main defense points of SBMM. He writes that SBMM is an algorithm that groups players of similar skill levels together for more balanced matches. A game delivering a fairer experience for everyone should not be controversial. Yet this is easily one feature that big content creators and angry forum users seem to complain about the most. And after his 300 hours or so playing Modern Warfare 2, which is the game he's talking about here, he thinks that it's time to stop moaning about skill-based matchmaking. So he starts off the article with the claim that the majority of people who don't like SBMM are content creators because we just want to pub stomp every match we play so that we can get easy clips to make content with. And as he puts it, the legions of devoted sheeple that follow us and regurgitate everything big content creators say. Beyond content creators, he also blames angry forum users or sweaty teenagers hopped up on Monster energy drinks. So beyond his fallacious arguments that are factually wrong, and I'll get to that part of the story soon, his main argument is that SBMM is a necessary part of maintaining a healthy player base, because it makes casual players play against each other and sweaty players play against each other, which is how it should be in his view. And to be fair, on a surface level, it's easy to agree with that viewpoint. It sounds completely rational up until you have an actual game developer, in this case Max Hoberman, the designer of Halo 2 and Halo 3's critically acclaimed matchmaking system, respond to it directly. So in response to this article, Max wrote, "The ignorance here is infuriating. What I implemented cleanly divided the space into ranked and unranked matchmaking playlists. Ranked filtered opponents based on level. This is when you wanted a competitive match. But even then, I intentionally allowed variability in the range of levels we matched you with. This variability was a topic of hot debate internally during development 20 years ago. Obviously, no one wants to get stomped continuously. On the flip side, it gets dull for most people continuously stomping others. However, it is fun having the upper hand some of the time. By intentionally allowing a range of skills to match together, we provided 3 experiences in ranked matchmaking. An easier one where you can kick butt, a harder one where you're likely outmatched, and an evenly matched one. My theory was that a good mix of these 3 was ideal. So even in the ranked playlist, they found through heated debates and play testing that even in a ranked competitive environment, having every match be completely equal in terms of outcome was not fun. It's not fun for casual players, and it's not fun for competitive players either. But let's let him continue. Why not always evenly match people though? My reasoning was that these are actually the most stressful matches of the set. Sure, they're the most fun to watch for spectators, games come down to the wire. That's because the team that wins is the team that outperforms expectations. The failure of modern skill-based matchmaking, in my honest opinion, is that it's designed to maximize these perfect match scenarios and minimize the others. When it's working, a majority of games become super tight, super stressful. That's not fun for most players. Where's the variability? The system that I designed for ranked playlists ensured a healthy mix. Sure, it sucks watching your favorite team get their butt kicked, but it comes full circle when they're the ones kicking butt. Throw in tight, evenly matched games every so often, and that's a ton of fun. And I just love the fact that he's not even referring to SBMM and DBD specifically here, but rather SBMM in general, and he still hits the net on the head perfectly for describing why players are not enjoying SBMM in DBD. There's no variability and every match is stressful, which is just not fun for most players. But now let's let him finish his point. I haven't even gotten to the unranked playlist yet. I designed these to not factor in skill level in the search for opponents. Yes, our engineers utilized the same codebase and kept skill level as a search criteria, but we substantially deprioritized it in matchmaking. We also didn't track skill level globally, only per playlist. The net result was that the unranked matchmaking allowed a very wide range of skill levels to match together for what everyone agreed was casual, inconsequential fun. Again, that's the way it should be in my opinion. Since the natural skill level distribution of players follows a bell curve, there are outliers, inherent low skill and high skill players. Characterizing the high skill ones as sweaty teens hopped up on Monster Energy is really disrespectful. Segregating high skill players from the population at large, forcing long wait times on them, is a form of discrimination. Designers should strive to find a way that players of all skill levels can have fun together. Casual, inconsequential, unranked matchmaking is one way. I dabbled with handicap settings and asymmetric game mode design as others. Game dev should not take the easy way out and default to segregation though. There's far more that can be done. Derogatory views like this among other game devs is a cop-out and a disservice to players. So basically, SBMM is a lazy and short-sighted way to implement matchmaking, and the longer term consequences result in a game that slowly feels less and less fun to play for players at every skill level. So this idea that it only affects sweaty players or content creators is just purely false. Now he also talks about having a ranked and unranked playlist. I've explored this subject a few times on the channel. If you're interested in that, I'll link those videos in the description. However, the way I see it now, whether it's the old rank-based matchmaking system or SBMM, DBD's core mode is quite literally ranked already. There is no casual or unranked mode in the game. But like he said, even in a truly ranked playlist that shows you your actual level like Halo 2 and 3 did, there still needs to be variability within it for players to have an enjoyable experience, even when they're looking for a competitive one. SBMM is like the soulless version of a matchmaking system. He also mentioned how an unranked mode is really important as well, and I definitely agree. I hope this year one of the gameplay modifiers really stands out and becomes a new permanent unranked version of DBD that can be enjoyed more casually. Unfortunately, Lights Out still used skill-based matchmaking, and it's one of the major reasons the game mode imploded as hard as it did. Unranked or casual modes should heavily deprioritize skill as a search parameter. Now, the final thing I want to do in this video is explain what I would do with matchmaking in DBD myself. First, I would get rid of SBMM and bring back the old Emblem-based rank system, but intertwine it with the current grade system and then get rid of all of the obvious exploits I discussed earlier. And yeah, I'd implement my currency-based build system as well. I'll literally debate anyone on that. Alright, so next time someone says that SBMM is a good matchmaking system or that it's better than the old rank-based system, direct them to this video and make sure to tell them to click the like button as proof. That wasn't too subtle, was it? Well, regardless, let me know your thoughts as always down in the comments. Also, thanks for watching and have a good one.